All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college basketball, and it's been crazy. It's been mad. It's been everything and anything in between those words. Heck, I don't even know what's going on. First time in college basketball history that we will not have a number 1 seed. We'll not have a number 2 seed, and we're not going to have a number 3 seed in the Final Four. But the man that I couldn't do this without, he got cleared from the disabled list, so he is definitely joining me back in the studio. My co-host, Fresh. Fresh, how you doing, buddy?
It's been a heck of a week and a heck of a Sweet 16 and Elite Eight. Chaos all around. They call it March Madness for a reason. You know, last year we were spoiled with 4 blue bloods, and this year we got 3 never beens and UConn. It's magic. You never know what's going to happen, and if we've seen so much chaos now, I can't wait to see what's going to happen in Houston over the weekend.
Yeah, and it's been an incredible thing to watch. It's been great basketball to watch. A lot of things that if I was thinking back in a long time ago, I used to coach basketball, and I sat back, and one of the things I kept saying is there's so many pieces that you could have taken away from this tournament and use them to teach kids and be like, this is how you handle in this situation. This is how you don't handle in this situation. You know, you sometimes see what not to do. But I thought that it's been a great tournament so far and a very interesting Final Four.
Oh, I mean, we could have potentially have 2 teams from maybe 100 miles between each other in Boca Raton and in Miami, facing off for a title. Owls and Hurricanes could potentially be a championship matchup there. And if it is, can we just get Jerry Seinfeld and the Seinfelds in general and just do it from del Boca Vista and just have it hold reunion tournament there? I think that'd be pretty fitting.
Yeah, absolutely. But before we go any further, make sure you if you're watching this on the YouTube or whether you're listening to us on podcast, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, get notified every single time we drop a new episode. We got more episodes coming. We're about ready to move to NFL draft. Once we wrap up this college basketball tournament, hit that notification bell, though. And that's it. That's all I'm going to ask for this go around here. And, we're doing this just for fun here. So,
hey, be a team player, just like Marquise Noel was over the weekend. Distribute the ball, be a player, help us out. This is the one thing before we move on. The first player with 20 plus points, 19 plus assists, and 5 plus steals in a men's D1 game or NBA game since 1996.
That's insane.
In the Sweet 16. And being back in MSG from New York, this dude went off in that ball game and set the record, obviously, for assists in an NCAA tournament game. But, help us out, spread it to your friends, be like him, give a little dish underneath the hoop, and we can put away for you and add more followers. Be more like Marquise.
Yeah, and again, another one, someone special out there. He knows who he is. California, I'm telling you, you got a big time assist this weekend from California to Florida. I know you're in recovery right now. I know you're sitting there, hopefully listening, watching this back. We're both thinking about you, and hopefully, you spend a little bit of time learning about some basketball because you've had bigger things going on right now in the world. So, I'm thinking about you, and this is one of those things I told Fresh before we started the show that I wouldn't go into a huge amount of detail, but when he hears the word California, he knows who we're talking about.
Yep. Much bigger things, and we got your back right here, man.
Yeah. So hopefully you enjoy this and maybe get a chuckle or two out of it. Or maybe you just sit there and go, okay, this is what it is. I see what Seth and Fresh are doing here. All right, Fresh. Let's get into basketball here. This is wild. I mean, you're looking at this here. We got 2 5 seeds, a number, FAU is a number 9 seed, and we have UConn as the highest rated seed as a 4 seed here coming in to the Final Four here. I went back and I looked before we went like crazy, and I know this is the first, like I said, the first time ever we haven't had a number 1 seed, not number 2 seed, not number 3 seed in the Final Four. I went back and I looked all as far as I could to find where anything that was closest to this. There's only 3 years that I found that was anything relatively close. First time it happened in 1980, you had a 2, an 8, a 6, and a 5. Louisville wound up being your champion that year. They were the 2 seed. In 2000, I didn't remember this because 2000 was one of my first tournaments I was really heavily involved in. You had a 1-5 and a 2-8 in the Final Four. That was won by Michigan State, but they were a 1 seed. And then you had UConn winning it in 2011. You had 3-8, 4, and 11 in that year. You had a year where you didn't have 1 or 2 seeds in there. It's impressive. It's impressive that and it goes back to what we started at the beginning of this tournament. Our word was parity. There wasn't a clear-cut championship favorite in this tournament coming in. We both kind of thought Alabama was really good, and you just sat there and go, please, the rest of the field, somebody prevent Alabama from winning a national title. And who would have thought it was going to be San Diego State to do it? So,
hey, don't mess with the Aztecs.
Listen,
they were ready to go.
Whatever the Aztecs did prior to it, whether they were down in took a journey down there into one of the missions near San Diego, or I don't know what they did.
They put together a defensive spectacle, and they made sure they resisted. But it's funny you bring up the 2011 tournament. That was the 1 year that was the highest total seed. So basically, what they mean by total seeds, 3 + 4, 7, 8, and 11, and they got a total of 26. This Final Four is the second highest in history with a 4, a 5, and a 5 and a 9. So it just shows you teams. There's just splattering up there, and people just throwing darts. If anybody had FAU, San Diego State, UConn, and Miami in the Final Four, please take your bows, take your congratulations. Major props to you on that one.
Yeah. The only one that the closest team I came up with was probably Texas. I mean, I thought they had it. But they gave it back into Miami. So, all right, Fresh, let's just rock into these games. Like we said, we've talked about, it's been a great tournament so far. Which one do you want to start with first? Let's go to the left side of the bracket right now, San Diego State and FAU. Let's kind of break this game down here. Florida Atlantic, 35-3 so far this year. I feel like this is TCU all over again. When are we going to stop doubting Florida Atlantic? When? We're all like, well, they'll win the first game, but then they'll get rolled by Purdue, and then Purdue loses in the first round. But, they're going to beat Fairleigh Dickinson University, but they're going to get stomped by Tennessee in the Sweet 16, get past Tennessee. Oh, but they don't have the offense to keep up with K-State, and here we are. FAU is in the Final Four. And then you take a look at San Diego State. We already talked about them knocking off Alabama. How do you see this game going, man? I'm kind of torn on who I'm rooting for in this game. What do you see up?
When you brought up earlier about parity, one thing we got a lot of players factoring in that COVID year of eligibility, NIL, transfer portal. So there are players shuffling up and dealing all over the country. And that's kind of where you get some of these unknown teams making runs that you wouldn't really expect. But in FAU's case, these guys have been together the entire time. Their star player, the point guard from Gary, Indiana, as soon as the coach saw him on his first day in open gym, he's like, I want that guy. Brought him in, and you can definitely tell he hit on his recruit. And the guys have built each other, and they've been a powerhouse playing together for years now. It just finally started kicking. And they're a very fast, up-paced team who hits the three very well. The center from Russia had a game of his life in the Elite Eight. Hadn't really been as consistent up to that point, especially through the tournament. But that game he went off and dominated the interior, which really gave them an extra push to make that run and win that ball game. They have a lot of energy. They're playing with house money. No one expected them, but they are going to finish with the most wins in D1 this year, period. Even if they lose on Saturday night, they will still finish with the most wins in the season of any team. So that's quite a feat. Second ever time to make the tournament, you make this run. It is kind of shady, though, that coach dropped some news that players are already getting texts and tweets and messages from other coaches trying to recruit them and poach them from the squad. So, hey, recruiting never ends. But I think that team is in a good position. They feel they've been with each other for 4 years, and they understand who they are, and they can play with that kind of vibe. On the other side, San Diego State, an amazing defensive team, giving up 50-something points a ball game, locking it down, playing for their coaches, playing for each other, great rebounding team. And as you've seen, beating Alabama, and then today taking care of business, they have steel, they have ice in their veins, where they are not going to shy away and they're going to play their game. They're going to slow it down. They knocked Creighton out by taking away the 3-point shot. Creighton had made about 9.5 a game. They held up to 2. They're going to slow it down and make it ugly. You know what they kind of reminded me of is that it's funny you mentioned the 2000 tournament. That Wisconsin Badger team was an 8 seed, and they might have averaged 52 points a game, but they gave up 47, and they would force turnovers. They'd slow the game down to a screeching halt, and they'd find a way to win with free throws and just clutch threes late in the ball game, but they'd make it ugly and messy. And that's kind of what San Diego State does here. They're a veteran team. They played together, and they can take that fast-paced offense and they can slow it down. When it comes down to it, I love the Cinderella story of FAU, but I think San Diego State, that defense, that travels. And they're going to get on the big stage, and they don't have to make shots, but if they're preventing shots, they're not fouling in crazy situations and getting themselves off kilter, they're going to be successful. And talking about teams not fouling, I'm going to jump ahead of here a little bit, but last night in the Gonzaga game, Timmy, in the first 10 minutes of the ballgame, had no fouls. They put him in at the 10-minute mark. And by the 17-minute mark remaining in the second half, he finally had 4 fouls. In basically 13 minutes, he went from 0 to 4 fouls, and the ball game was completely out of hand at that point where there was no way with their star player on the bench they were able to compete with UConn. That's what San Diego State is not allowed to happen. They don't get their star players in foul trouble, and they're able to keep that game flowing on their terms, and that keeps them active. They don't have to chase points the entire night. I think San Diego State gets it done. The Aztecs move on to the championship game, but FAU will give a very good battle.
Yeah, my lean right now is towards San Diego State. San Diego State's a 1.5 point favorite right now at the time we're recording. That line could definitely change. But take a look at it, and you're right. San Diego State, the point differential is sitting there right now at just over 14 points a game. You take a look at FAU, they're looking at 12 points a game, a little under that. And the thing I really asked myself is who's going to be the one to be able to do the little things in the game? San Diego State, they have a second line there. I know how you take a look at this. They're averaging 4 blocks a game. They got 7 steals per game right now going on. That's going to be really where the difference maker comes into this game. FAU, are you able to get second chance shots? If the ball doesn't go in, if they're contesting that shots, are you able to get a second try at the basket during that time? If San Diego State is able to win the rebounding battle, and right now they are averaging less rebounds than Florida Atlantic, then I think San Diego State's really got a chance at this thing, especially for Florida Atlantic. The guy I'm looking at is Ladisai Golden, the center. Kid's a sophomore right now, so averaging 10 points a game, but he's only getting 6.6 rebounds a game. I need him really to step up that. I need to see him have a double-double in this game here if it's going to. Everyone's going to take a look at Davis and Martin. They're going to say the guard play is what's going to be the deciding factor here. This game is going to be won in the paint. Who can take control and impose their will upon the other defense and offense on both sides within that key area? If that winds up being San Diego State, great. You're going to bully ball them around. You're going to push around Florida Atlantic. But who's going to be the one to do it? Is it going to be Ladie? Is he going to be able to match up? He's giving up a few inches to Golden right now. Who's it going to be? So that's really where I got to see that from San Diego State. They don't have a guy who's averaging over 5.9 rebounds right now. And the guy that is averaging that, he's a bench player. He's not one of their main starters. He's not one of the guys who's really going to give them a bunch of minutes here. So San Diego State, that's what, if I'm going into practice all this week, my thing is box out. Box out, play defense, do what you're doing there, but we got to limit these guys to one shot at the basket. All Florida Atlantic needs is that spark in them. That's all they need. They need that to feel like, because they're going to sit there and say, everyone's going to be going, okay, it's going to go San Diego State. And they're going to feed into the doubt. Just like, again, I'm kind of using the comparison here, Michigan and TCU in our college football. I know everything's different when it comes to the sport, but I'm talking about the perception going into that game. The perception going into the game. TCU, nice story, but they're not going to be able to keep up with Michigan this year. Florida Atlantic, man, this is your shot. I would love to see, and you know what? I'm going to change my pick. I was going to say San Diego State. Give me the underdog, man. 35-3. Let's stop doubting them. Give me Florida Atlantic Owls.
And they're gonna have the first tip in the football stadium, which is now a basketball arena. A lot more fans, depth perception because the shots are gonna be different. It's maybe sometimes even elevate the court a little bit. How is that going to play into this game for both teams? Because obviously these two teams are completely brand new. It's not your normal gym where you're coming in there and the court's right there like this. You're having to go up steps and the fans are all the place. You're playing in a football stadium. How does that play for you, Seth?
It's a pain. It's a pain. It's terrible to get used to. You really need to spend some time getting used to it. And again, these kids are a lot better athletes than anything that I've ever done or a lot of the players I've ever coached. But I go back to this. A long time ago, I had a chance I went and played at the University of Toledo's team camp. And our first game of that week-long or weekend-long team camp was on the main floor. And the idea of getting used to the seats behind that and the sheer space, because we were so used to high school gyms. We were so used to, there's a wall right behind the basket, and it does mess with your depth perception a little bit. But these kids are more inclined to that. College arenas are built a little bit differently than like a high school gym. So I think, yes, it'll take them a moment or two. I think the sheer size of it and maybe like looking up into the ceiling and seeing, geez, how tall this building is. But I'm not a fan of that, man. Like, why are
No,
we going to these football? I get it. Like, you want to sell out tickets as much as possible, but come on.
yeah, it's tickets. Well, actually, for the Final Four, and anyone who knows anyone that's ever been to one, the majority of the lower bowl are either students or a bunch of corporate tickets. All the sponsors, all the conferences bringing the schools bringing people. Those aren't real fans who are buying tickets. The fans buying tickets are up in the rafters. So they have to find a way to get all the corporate people down below, and to accommodate them for everything they put in all year long. So that's why it's also a weird environment because you don't sometimes, unless it's a close game, you're not getting that full on, game that you would in the arena for the first, second round, Sweet 16, Elite Eight, where it's just fans upon fans upon fans. But it does take something to get used to.
Yeah. There's just under 70,000 at the Kansas UNC final last year. That's insane. Just under 70,000. All right, Fresh. Let's go to the other game on the other side of the bracket. The Miami Hurricanes versus the UConn Huskies. Miami, interesting path to the Final Four for them, beating Drake. I think that I think it was us. We even said that Miami was on upset watch.
Mm-hmm.
We thought
There's
Drake
a
could
lot of
get
people
him.
who thought Drake could get him.
Yeah. And then you take a look at UConn cruising past Iona, then cruising past St. Mary's, then cruising past Arkansas, and cruising past Gonzaga. UConn's been on cruise control since day one.
It's slaughtered everyone by double digits. They have not lost a game outside of conference play. They've just been dominant. That just shows you how good the Big East is. Now we can see with Creighton being there and Marquette and Xavier, the Big East has been the beast, and UConn has been clicking at the right time, and they are just smoking people left and right.
Yeah, so for me, Fresh, I'm looking at this game. Miami's just gotten some amazing guard play this year right now, especially all tournament long, I should say. Isaiah Wong, Jordan Miller, what a game out of him in the final Elite Eight right there. Just incredible. Doing it from the field, doing it from foul line.
It's funny they tried to even jinx him during the broadcast because at the time he was 6 for 6, 7 for 7 from the field, and 11 for 11 from the line. And he got to the line late in the ballgame, and I think Jim Nance's like, "I'm gonna let somebody else talk about it, so I don't jinx the poor kid." He knocked down both free throws, finished the game with 27, went 7 for 7 from the field, and 13 for 13 from the line. Perfect day. And then you win the regional on top of that might be like the best basketball day of your life.
Yeah, and then you look across the way, and you got a guy like Snago and Hawkins, who've just been absolutely dominant. You take a look at Andre Jackson Jr. as well, like how well he's played this year so far. You got Tristan Newton's played really, really well. I mean, I don't know who to pick in this game. I really don't, because Miami has played really, really well, and they seem like, as everyone was talking about during the Elite Eight game, like that loss last year in the Elite Eight really resonated with the Hurricanes, and they busted their tail all year long to get back to this moment, and they get to the Final Four. And then you got the UConn Huskies who just like, yeah, someone else tell us we're not going to win this thing.
It's kind of funny, like the two of them are going to be facing off, instead of facing for a title. It's the way the bracket works out and the way everything's seeded. But it's funny how if the NCAA kind of wanted to reseed, they might have paired somebody else together to have instead of FAU and San Diego State playing each other and then Miami, UConn taking on. But hey, it's the way it works out. You got to play who's in front of you. This game there's a reason why it's the 8:50 tip in the second game that night. This one's going to be a spectacle. I think this is actually a great matchup for UConn because the speed and athleticism that the guards for Miami do provide. Jim Larinaga, though, being the most veteran coach of this entire group, is going to provide. Him and Bobby Hurley are two. Well, they've been in basketball for their entire lives, but I think Larinaga, been to a Final Four before as a coach, is going to really help the Hurricanes. And it's kind of funny, though. Today's March 26th when we're recording. The day that he took George Mason to the Final Four, had a double-digit comeback, was also March 26th back in 2006. Same thing exactly happened here today. So there might be some, mystic happenings there. There's a hurricane warning going on that they're on their way. It's going to see how does UConn get too full of themselves this week because they have smoked everyone. They haven't had to play late down the stretch. They haven't had to make a key shot or key free throws or anything else in probably a month by this point because the semifinals in the Big East championship, they lost to Marquette. How are they going to be able to handle that clutch, that deep late moment in a big game with everything on the line? I think that's what they're really waiting to see from UConn. Will they ever be tested?
Yeah, and you take a look at this matchup here, Fresh. Both these teams really do a great job of sharing the basketball. UConn's averaging 17 assists a game right now, almost 18 assists a game. That means they're making the extra pass. They work the ball around. I know everyone's going to take a look at the names and say, this is how they're scoring their points. But it's not. It's getting their points within the flow of the offense and not just using one-on-one situations there as well. They also have won the rebounding battle pretty much this whole tournament long. They're going to have a strength over them against Miami. Miami does have a fairly good center, so watch out for him this week. But here's the thing that really is going to be different. And we saw this in the Texas game. Wong, Jordan, all of those guys, very active hands. And very active hands when you bring the ball into the paint. And it will get you in foul trouble at times. Like you reach and try to tap the ball. But you take a look late down in that Texas game. You see that where he knocks the ball out, puts the ball into a transition mode right there. That's something that the Hurricanes can do to put the pressure on UConn. And if they can put UConn in transition, you can't get down to UConn. Miami, you have to play with UConn for 40 minutes. This is not Texas. This is not another team. This isn't Houston where we'll turn it on in the last 10 minutes. You turn it on in the last 10 minutes, the Huskies are going to be up 20.
Well, honestly, like last night in the Gonzaga game, I went to sleep at the under 12. I was like, I'm done. I mean, it's just no point. I mean, it was a bloodbath.
Yeah. And that's the scary thing. Right now, UConn is a 5-point favorite in this game. I think that's a little high. I have a feeling that by the time that this game actually tips, I wouldn't be shocked if that comes down a little bit. Maybe to 4.5, right in there. Still at 5 points, but maybe down to 4. But I'm really intrigued to see who this game is. I feel like, and again, no disrespect to San Diego State and FAU because I don't want to doubt them either. But I think that whoever comes out of this matchup is going to be a hellacious matchup for whoever in the national title game.
Well, I think for once, they both would have very experienced coaches who understand how to manage that next day and a half, 2 days. And that would be able to settle them a little bit and keep their teams focused. You need the veteran coaches there who can get the guys through the critical points. So whoever can find a way to win that ball game of the UConn Miami matchup will have that extra card, in the deck to help play that. Because then a lot of these guys, especially for FAU, the media attention right now is through the roof. Um, the only time we ever would talk about FAU before would be which head coach got hired there, either Lane Kiffin, Willie Taggart, and now Tom Herman. Be there for a couple of years, go to a bowl game in Myrtle Beach or Bahamas, and then head up somewhere else. They haven't even had anything from that perspective as high and as amazing as this Final Four trip. And just being able to adapt and understand that. Same thing for San Diego State. How do you adapt and understand? Miami players, they've been in the ACC, they've been getting hounded, they've been getting national media for a while. Same thing with UConn. UConn's a brand. It's a different kind of element. And how do these teams handle it this week? Because now it's not, well, we can get through a day of practice. We get to the site on Wednesday or Thursday, prepare, practice, and go. Now you have an entire week. You travel to the location. You're on there, and it's kind of like it's basically a Super Bowl where you are now in media. You're going to be doing multiple interviews in your little tables there with the things in front of you with your name, going through all of that scrutiny, and then trying to practice and stay focused, dealing with tickets for family. This is a much bigger deal than it's been the previous two rounds, and you got to maintain this business. Show up on game day, take everything seriously, and do your best. If you start getting too much of that, the lights are bright and you can't handle it, like Gonzaga, cough cough, you will fail.
So who do you got, Miami or UConn?
Oh, UConn.
I got UConn.
I think they win by double digits. They're playing so far right now. It's not even ridiculous. It's not even funny.
Yeah, UConn has looked so good. They've looked just impressive. This could be one of those teams that we talk about for years to come. How impressive of a run they make in this tournament. All right, Fresh.
Now, before you jump on, would this be, if they won the title, would this be the best of the most recent men's titles? Would this be the most impressive run for UConn's had? Because they had the one, we obviously talked about it before, with Rip Hamilton. They kind of won that late in versus Duke. Then you had the Kevin Ollie squad, which Kemba Walker and them came out of middle of nowhere. Would this be the most impressive dominant run?
Yeah, especially when you use the word dominant. Especially with, I wouldn't say maybe most, if you change it to be just most impressive, I still go back to the Kevin Ollie and Kemba Walker run. That one was just insane by them. But when you sit there and go, looking at a team out of a tournament that, there was no clear-cut favorite, and they just come in there and like, no, we should have been the favorite. Like, let us show you how we roll here in Connecticut. Yeah, give me UConn here. I got UConn as well coming out of the Miami game, and it's going to be an impressive feat by them. I don't know if I'm going to call it double digits yet, but get your popcorn ready. It's going to be a good game. All right, Fresh.
I mean, I think the network hopes it's not.
Yeah, and everyone just flips channel.
Yeah.
All right, Fresh. You got San Diego State versus UConn. I got FAU versus UConn. Who's your national champion?
They're raising the banner in stores, and they're going to tell Gino Auriemma that your program's fantastic as a women's side, but we're the ones bringing home the banner.
Yeah, I'm going to go UConn. I really want it. It would be fun to see FAU win. It would be. It'd be a fun story.
Well, it would be amazing for that university.
It would
be huge for enrollment. I mean, it's Boca Raton. It's very fancy and glitzy. It's right there off very, very close to the beach. I'm sure they're going to have a massive enrollment increase. But if they won the national title, would that be the equivalent of Texas Wesleyan back in the '60s?
Yep.
Like what would be the true equivalent of that, of them winning a title?
I don't know. Like, that's a great question. I mean, I
Like
guess
maybe Marquette under Dan McGuire.
maybe
when they did it in the '70s.
San Francisco, but San Francisco had Bill Russell.
Yeah, I don't think we're having one of the greatest players of all time playing on the FAU squad.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. I'd really have to think about that one. Have to think about it.
Kind of along the same lines, because this is from a different perspective. We don't have the blue bloods. I mean, UConn, I think you can call them a brand from basketball. They're much more of a known brand from the women's side, even though they have two national titles. But last year's Final Four, there's 4 teams in it, had a combined 437 tournament wins. Do you know how many combined tournament wins these 4 schools have?
Less than 100.
92. The experience isn't there, but they're hitting with lightning in a bottle. Do you think that causes decreased viewership on TV, online streaming during the Final Four and on the championship game? Because there's outside of UConn, there's the brain isn't there.
I don't know. Because here's the other thing that stinks. So you're going to lose a chunk of fan base because you're also going up against WrestleMania next weekend. And if you're anything, again, it does, as much as you might want to say, like, are
It
you comparing
does.
basketball to wrestling? I'm like, WrestleMania is a huge deal for a casual sports fan, especially a casual pro wrestling fan. It might be the one time of the year you tune into professional wrestling. I think it might hurt the Final Four games. I don't know if it's going to hurt, the Monday championship game. I think depending on who comes out of it, if we get like FAU UNC or FAU Miami, I think you could sell it a little bit more if I'm a network executive, but better off like San Diego State. You get the West Coast, you get California tuning
Yeah.
in a little
I mean,
bit.
it's kind of where you have to sell it as watching elite basketball and not looking at the names. I think because you're like, oh, San Diego State, FAU, whatever. I'm not tuning in. If that was Kentucky Villanova, people watch it just because Kentucky Villanova, the name pops.
Oh yeah,
Not because the product is the same. I think the quality of basketball we've seen so far should prove to you that these guys can play and they're good enough, and they haven't won by flukes.
yeah,
And they deserve to be there.
yeah, absolutely. All these teams deserve to be here, but this has been a fun tournament, Fresh. Fun tournament. Can't wait.
You know something else has been missing from this tournament?
What's
The
that?
Big Ten.
Yeah.
This is something we all talk about. The Big Ten is so great in basketball, and maybe they beat each other up in conference play, but the Big Ten has had 26 teams in the field of 68 over the past 3 tournaments. Only one has made the Elite Eight. That was Sparty in 2021. And the Big Ten has only had one national champion since 2000, and that was, you already mentioned it, Michigan State. Like, the Big Ten, maybe regular season dominance, the slow play, but when it gets to tournament time, they've just been non-existent lately. Um, it it might be for the league as a whole needs to take a look in the mirror and try to reinvigorate who they are, because they're getting passed by other conferences pretty quickly.
And they're getting, listen, we got 3 non-power 5 schools in this. Well, Big East is a power 5 in basketball. I shouldn't say that, but you
Yeah,
have
no doubt.
two non-power 5 schools in the Final Four here. So I think everyone's being passed. Maybe this will be a wake-up call.
Well, I think it's use your NIL better, recruit, but like I said, mostly schools. They've had these guys here for 3 or 4 years. They've built strong programs they've glued together. Kansas State was awkward because the entire team was brand new and they brought everybody on the transfer portal. But most of these teams, these guys are familiar with each other and they're building that continuity, which key moments it pays off. And maybe that's where we've gotten too far in the NIL. We have to sort of tone it back down a little bit and build a team as opposed to having a bunch of individuals on the school.
Absolutely. All right, Fresh. We're wrapping up tournament time, which means as March flips over to April, it can only mean one thing, and that's the NFL draft. We're going to bring a lot of draft content to you guys. Make sure you're checking out spinablesports.com. If you're crazy about the draft, Fresh has done you a big favor. He has given you the top 100 prospects. I think it's like 105 prospects
105.
on the offensive side and on the defensive side. So he's giving you over 200 players to look at. If you're kind of one of those people like, who should my team draft? What are they looking at? So make sure you go to spinablesports.com. Check out those articles. There's a bunch of other stuff coming out here. Again, keep it locked in. We're going to bring to you a full first-round mock draft. We're going to bring you back some interviews, hopefully. We're going to do a little bit of everything. Special thanks to our producer, Drew. You guys know the deal. Like, subscribe, leave us that 5-star review because you know Fresh and I were those 5-star prospects. Other than that, that's it. We'll send it off to Fresh here. And enjoy the Final Four and championship, everyone.
Enjoy the Final Four. It's draft season, baby. Let's go. Bring on April. With that, bye, y'all.